Well, hello, everybody. This is AA Beyond Belief, the podcast, the live stream version, and we are on YouTube. And welcome. It's good to see everybody out there today. And of course, Angela is here from Boise. How you doing, Angela?
I'm doing all right.
And do you even
Happy to
give a
be
fuck?
here.
Little joke there. Yeah. So anyway, we were looking for topics this week, and I suggested masturbation, masturbation as the topic, and Angela thought that might be offensive. So instead, we thought that we would just not give a fuck, you know. So it's the subtle art of not giving a fuck, which is actually a book that was written by Mark Manson, and he's got a website that has a little sample of the book and a little writing, an excerpt from the book that talks about the three subtleties of not giving a fuck, and it's kind of interesting. And we thought we'd talk about that and see if we can relate it to the program. I have actually, Joe doesn't give a fuck. It's gonna be fun just to say fuck all day long. If the word offends you, this might not be the episode for you.
Yeah, we'll do one next week on masturbation.
All
That'll be
right.
much easier for people.
Well, you know, I learned two things this week. I learned about not giving a fuck, and I also learned about masturbation because I never knew about it. And then what happened is Charles from England, Charles H, wrote an article for AA Beyond Belief about it, and I read it. I said, "Well, this is really interesting," and it's actually a concept by a noted psychologist. You know, so anyway, I learned something about that. But anyway, this not giving a fuck thing is pretty interesting. Angela, how did you ever find out about this anyway?
I saw the book several years ago when it came out and heard a podcast about it on I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, it was, and I thought it was fun and kind of cool. And as I listened a little bit to it, a lot of it sounds like stuff that we talk about within 12-step programs, and just phrased slightly differently, but kind of fun. And I know from like our home group, we have a binder of all of the different versions of the steps, and that in like 3 of the different versions, it's probably got like 15 versions, maybe
Mm-hmm.
more, but 3 of them have the word fuck in almost every sentence.
Right, the
So
12
it's
the 12
very,
fucking steps, I
yeah,
believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, one was from the guy in Florida, and then there's Russell Brand, and then, somebody else who, inserted it. So yeah, so it's pretty popular to use that. And so I thought this would be fun. I watched another thing with the author that was filmed just the other day as well. And, and yeah, thought it would be interesting to bring it to our people and see what people thought about it. And there's a few things that, that you'll hear, some of his phrasing, which is might offend people, but that's part of what he does. I did listen to the entire book today.
Oh,
I
really?
read
Wow.
different parts,
Hmm.
but yeah, I listened to it. And yeah, and it's great. I think it's a great book for people to read or get or listen to. There's a lot of quality stuff in there, and he presents it in it with a lot of humor. And so it's one of the best anti self-help books, I guess, that I've read.
Audiobooks are pretty cool, aren't they? I've never really gotten into them. I got to give them a try. I don't know, for me, for some reason it's like if I'm listening to a book, it's harder for me to pay attention to it, to absorb it, than when I'm reading it for some reason. But if I could train myself to listen to it, I think that'd be a good
Yeah.
way of getting some good information inside my old brain.
Right. We used to do like tapes and
Oh
then
yeah.
CDs for
Yeah.
car trips and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then, moved on to podcasts and then sometimes books. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is really fun to listen to on a road trip.
Hmm.
Highly recommend. And then for me, I found particularly during this COVID time that it's easier for me to listen and then, be doing something while I'm listening. So today, today I just did a color sheet with the big word "no" on it. And that's one of the chapters in the book on how to say no and stuff like that. And I find that helps me listen more closely when my mind is kind of distracted on something small and little, kind of like people who knit or crochet. I mean, they create something that's more helpful and useful most of the time. Color sheets aren't, but I'm just not a knitter. Yeah.
Hey, there's Josie out there. Hey, Joe. And Bree is out there, and Joe is out there, and I saw Jackie and Bob B. Hi, everybody. So I thought what I would do is maybe we could just get right into it. What I've done is if you go over to his website, markmanson.net, he has a audio recording of the excerpt of his book. And so I went ahead, and there's 3 clips that I've got here on the 3 subtleties. So I thought maybe I would play one subtlety at a time, and then we could talk about it. And I would love for you guys to call in to give us your 2 or 3 cents on the subject. And you can do that at our toll-free number, 844-899-8278. And it's flashing right there for you on YouTube. So, Angela, shall I go ahead and hit the button and play the first subtlety?
Sure.
Okay, here it goes. All right. This is Mark Manson, and he doesn't give a fuck.
Subtlety number 1. Not giving a fuck does not mean being indifferent. It means being comfortable with being different. When most people envision giving no fucks whatsoever, they envision a kind of perfect and serene indifference to everything, a calm that weathers all storms. This is misguided. There's absolutely nothing admirable or confident about indifference. People who are indifferent are lame and scared. They're couch potatoes and internet trolls. In fact, indifferent people often attempt to be indifferent because in reality, they actually give too many fucks. They are afraid of the world and the repercussions of their own choices. Therefore, they make none. They hide in a gray, emotionless pit of their own making, self-absorbed and self-pitied, perpetually distracting themselves from this unfortunate thing demanding their time and energy called life. My mother was recently screwed out of a large chunk of money by a close friend of hers. Had I been indifferent, I would have shrugged my shoulders, sipped some mocha, and downloaded another season of The Wire. Sorry, Mom. But instead, I was indignant. I was pissed off. I said, no, screw that, Mom. We're going to lawyer the fuck up and go after this asshole. Why? Because I don't give a fuck. I will ruin this guy's life if I have to. This illustrates the first subtlety about not giving a fuck. When we say, damn, watch out, Mark Manson just don't give a fuck, we don't mean that Mark Manson doesn't care about anything. On the contrary, what we mean is that Mark Manson doesn't care about adversity in the face of his goals. He doesn't care about pissing some people off to do what he feels is right or important or noble. What we mean is that Mark Manson is the type of guy who would write about himself in third person and use the word fuck in an article 127 different times just because he thought it was the right thing to do. He just doesn't give a fuck. This is what is so admirable. No, not me, dumbass. The overcoming adversity stuff. The staring failure in the face and shoving your middle finger back at it. The people who don't give a fuck about adversity or failure or embarrassing themselves or shitting the bed a few times. The people who just laugh and then do it anyway. Because they know it's right. They know it's more important than them and their own feelings and their own pride and their own needs. They say, fuck it, not to everything in life, but rather they say, fuck it, to everything unimportant in life. They reserve their fucks for what truly fucking matters. Friends, family, purpose, burritos, and an occasional lawsuit or two. And because of that, because they reserve their fucks for only the big things, the important things, People give a fuck about them in return.
Well, that's interesting. So it's not a matter of just not caring about anything, but it's about knowing what to care about, and I guess being assertive.
Yeah, well, it's more about, directing your attention, he goes into it a little bit more in the book, and then I think in the next section as well, but it's about prioritizing and considering, your morals and things like that, to not get caught up in little details of, the person who cut you off in traffic, and the neighbor who's, didn't mow their lawn, or, those kinds of things. If you're prioritizing where your attention's at, that stuff, doesn't get to you. If you don't have anything that you've, prioritized, then special projects, or, a goal in life, that kind of a thing, then yeah, a lot of stuff can get on your nerves pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of thinking about how I'm relating this to my program, and I'm thinking that there was a time. Well, there is always that time where I have to put my sobriety first and not really give a damn what anybody, not really give a fuck what people think. So, if I remember early on, it was like if I was invited to go out to some bar and I wasn't comfortable going, well, I can't really give a fuck what they might think about me. What they think about me is really irrelevant. What's really important is my goal of not drinking that day and doing whatever I need to do to get that done. So I don't know if that.
It's also kind of the stuff we learn about, what somebody thinks of us is none of our business.
That's right.
That's something that is brought up. I've heard many a sponsor say. Another thing is like, he talks in the beginning of the book, in this kind of section, more about that we have thoughts about our thoughts. We're conscious that we think about things, and we can think about the future and the past and stuff. And so, we think about stuff like, what we give a fuck about, what we don't, whether, we're good looking or not, or, if we have low self-esteem, then we think about that we shouldn't have low self-esteem, and that, thinking about that we're thinking about that, means that we're losers, and, and just kind of this whole cycle of the way we think about stuff. But really, I think it comes down to accepting that we're going to have negative experience. And that's definitely part of, the program is learning.
Yeah.
And it took me a while. I don't think anybody really explained that.
Yeah.
Or, it may have been that they did explain it and I just didn't get it for several years. But I think for the first several years, when I've mentioned, when stuff happened that was negative or frustrating, I thought it was because I wasn't doing the program right, or I must not have done that step right, or maybe I'm not going to enough meetings, or the right meetings, or whatever. And it would have been helpful to know that just shit happens.
You are so right. You are so right. I didn't even think about it that way, but I know part of my life story is, when I look back, is the thing that held me back from a lot of happy, good things or possibilities in life was that I always worried so much about, I guess, failure or what people might think of me. And I had to overcome that when I, in sobriety, because, you have to deal with whatever you're feeling without numbing it with alcohol. And I remember, I guess, the time that it was most relevant was when I started dating. And, you had to worry about, what if she says no? What if she doesn't like me, and all that stuff? And you know what? I just had to not give a fuck what she might think and just go for it, Yeah. And I guess I finally I didn't think about it that way, but after some time, I did kind of get some, like someone said in here, I grew some thick skin, I guess, and just knew that, this is my goal. This is the growth that I need in my life right now to be a happy and whole person. And this is what I'm going to do. Another thing too, Angela, was one thing that I was always afraid of and worried about, I guess, was getting help, going to a therapist for the first time, a psychologist. And I remember the fear that I had the first time I did that, but I did push through it. And it was like, not really giving a fuck what anybody thinks about that is really, because I just had to do what I needed to do. But yeah, that worrying about what other people might think, and most of the time, other people didn't even know. I don't know what it was, all in my imagination.
Right.
Like most people don't really give a shit.
Yeah,
They don't give a
the
fuck what I
story
think.
you were creating about the
Exactly.
situation.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Definitely.
Anyway, if you guys want to call in and talk about this, feel free. It's at 844-899-8278. I'd love to hear from you. Phones are open.
I don't think he mentions it in this excerpt that we're going to play. But one of the things that he talks about is the honesty, and that, when you're able to, direct your fucks and in the ways that follow your values and such, things go better. But he was traveling in Russia and went out on a date. And one of the things he says is that, in that society, people don't smile, and he talks about the background of, why that is and what it's like. And basically that they've learned to be very, very honest, and that he's on this date with a woman and he's, being polite and, said something. And she responded that was the stupidest thing she ever heard. And it wasn't as, to be rude, which sounds very rude, but it was just kind of a flat statement. She wasn't like ending the date or, anything like that. It was just a really stupid statement that he made. And, and that it took him aback because, here we don't do that. We try to be polite, and that he loved that concept. So yeah, it's interesting. I definitely recommend the book. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Another thing that is helpful to know that I learned from watching an interview with him was that he was, some people may not like him now after I share this, but he was part of that movement of men in, I think it was like the early 2000s or mid 2000s, that I forget what they're called now. It's blanking on me. But they would share in groups tips for trying to attract women. And and that it started out as just kind of a bunch of nerd guys trying to figure out how do you talk to women and get laid and things like that.
Right.
But then it turned into real, misogynist, tips like, okay, you take them out and treat them really nice, and then you compliment them, and then you say something, rude that puts them down, and then, you compliment them again. And so that draws them in, and, crazy stuff like that. And so at that point, he saw what was happening and left that, and went on his journey. Isn't that the way
everything goes? You start something with good intentions and it just goes to hell. It's like, I'm going to start a Facebook group and everyone's going to just kidding guys.
But yeah, it was all part, that it turned out to be, pretty scummy group, but that it was a formidable experience for him to learn about that and to see how that devolved, and to work on himself. And so it showed him how he wanted to be. He didn't want to be one of those guys that just said random things, and he wanted honesty in his life. And so it was a good jumping off point for him to do the self-help growth that he needed to do, so to seek out therapy and a variety of things. So it was just really interesting. I had heard about that group and that stuff before, but I couldn't possibly think about how it could be helpful to somebody. And it's kind of similar to, having an addiction, it's something that a fair number of us, while we, it's that grateful alcoholic thing that, we had this condition and we've become better people because we sought help and stuff. And we would be simply different people if we didn't have the addiction. But who knows if we would be the cool quality people we are today, type of a thing.
Right. Well,
it was the adversity that caused us to try to become better.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Well, should I go to subtlety number 2?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. This is subtlety number 2 of not really giving a fuck. Here we go.
Subtlety number 2. To not give a fuck about adversity, you must first give a fuck about something more important than adversity. Eric Hoffer once wrote, "A man is likely to mind his own business when it is worth minding. When it is not, he takes his mind off his own meaningless affairs by minding other people's business." The problem with people who hand out fucks like ice cream at a goddamn summer camp is that they don't have anything more fuck-worthy to dedicate their fucks to. Think for a second. You're at a grocery store, and there's an elderly lady screaming at the cashier, berating him for not accepting her 30-cent coupon. Why does this lady give a fuck? It's just 30 cents. Well, I'll tell you why. That old lady probably doesn't have anything better to do with her days than to sit at home cutting out coupons all morning. She's old and lonely. Her kids are dickheads and never visit. She hasn't had sex in over 30 years. Her pension is on its last legs, and she's probably going to die in a diaper thinking she's in Candyland. She can't fart without extreme lower back pain. She can't even watch TV for more than 15 minutes without falling asleep or forgetting the main plot line. So she snips coupons. That's all she's got. It's her and her damn coupons. All day, every day. It's all she can give a fuck about because there is nothing else to give a fuck about. And so, when that pimply-faced 17-year-old cashier refuses to accept one of them, when he defends his cash register's purity the way knights used to defend maidens' virginities, you can damn well bet Granny is going to erupt and verbally Hulk smash his fucking face in. 80 years of fucks will rain down all at once, like a fiery hailstorm of back in my day, and people used to show more respect stories, boring the world around her to tears in her creaking and wobbly voice. If you find yourself consistently giving too many fucks about trivial shit that bothers you, your ex-girlfriend's new Facebook picture, how quickly the batteries die in the TV remote, missing out on yet another 2-for-1 sale on hand sanitizer, chances are you don't have much going on in your life to give a legitimate fuck about. And that's your real problem, not the hand sanitizer. In life, our fucks must be spent on something. There really is no such thing as not giving a fuck. The question is simply how we each choose to allot our fucks. You only get a limited number of fucks to give over your lifetime, so you must spend them with care. As my father used to say, fucks don't grow on trees, Mark. Okay, he never actually said that, but fuck it, pretend like he did. The point is that fucks have to be earned and then invested wisely. Fucks are cultivated like a beautiful fucking garden, where if you fuck shit up and the fucks get fucked, then you fucking fucked your fucks all the fuck up.
Well, that's pretty fucking good. Can you can you explain to me what the fuck he's talking about, please?
He's talking about prioritizing, that, learning to focus and prioritize your fucks effectively, how to pick and choose what matters to you, based on, honing your own personal values. So again, it doesn't mean being indifferent, it means being okay with being different, and that it's not about what's the phrasing? To not give a fuck about adversity, you must first give a fuck about something more important than adversity. So it's learning to, have values, and have integrity, and to figure out what you want to, stand up for and what's important to you. And, and sometimes it is coupons, and, and it could be Amway, it could be whatever, but that's kind of, what he's talking about is more of the, the figuring out what it is that works for you and what's important to you. And I guess kind of, one of the things that he said was the point isn't to get away from the shit, it's to find the shit you enjoy dealing with. I think that was more from the book during in the section of discussion. But yeah, it's again, recognizing that, yeah, there's only so much, and that we're all, going to be dealt a crappy hand at some point, or it feels that way. And so to just get what you want to work on. So for those of us who have addictions or substance abuse, misuse issues, I can't believe I actually said all of that. That that we've come to realize that that's what we have to deal with, and that's the reality. And for most of us, we don't think of it as that we're never going to not have to consider alcohol
Right.
or drugs or whatever it is. It's always going to be something that we need to kind of keep an eye on or have in our mind. And if we want to be sober and have a quality of life that is better than we did when we were drinking, we have to give a fuck about our sobriety or our recovery or whatever it is. And so it's recognizing that
You know what it kind of reminds me of? I read in a book once that, the advice you get in AA sometimes is to change your playmates and playgrounds. Like, in other words, you need to remove people from your life that were part of your drinking life, right? Well, I read in a book that it's really just the opposite, that it doesn't really matter. That part doesn't matter. What really matters is how many people you can add to your life that support your sobriety. And I'm kind of thinking that that's what's really important. It's not about not giving a fuck about those people that you drank with, but it's about giving more of a fuck about those people that you can bring into your life. At least that's it might not be quite exactly what he's saying, but that's kind of what I'm kind of drawing from it.
Yeah, I think I get what you're talking about. I think it's about choosing the type of people that you want. So I don't know if it's necessarily exchanging.
Right, it's not an exchange. It's like you don't really have to kick anybody out of your life.
One.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But no, it's again, learning to prioritize and what your values are, so that yeah, you're only spending time with the people who bring something to your life, rather than those who don't. And for a lot of us, we found that that our drinking buddies, if we had them, I recognize that some of us did not have drinking buddies. That they drank in the closet or wherever. But I was one that had drinking buddies, and was certain that they were going to be upset when I stopped drinking and call me and ask where I was. And I mentioned before, I changed my ringtone to Tainted Love for all of those people, and was just waiting for them to call, and they didn't call. They really didn't care that I wasn't drinking anymore. They were drinking and they found other people to drink with and stuff. So yeah, it's about picking and choosing and recognizing that things are going to be shitty regardless, and so choose what shitty things you want to deal with, and then that makes it easier.
Bob here writes in the chat room, he says, years in therapy, learning who I was and not letting people talk me into someone I wasn't. Years in therapy, learning who I was and not letting people talk me into someone I wasn't. When I drank, it would come out as anger at myself for allowing it to happen. For your information, I got sober through therapy.
Nice.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so please do feel free to call in at 844-899-8278. The phones are open. I do not have a t-shirt to give away to the first caller, but we can pretend anyway. T-shirt for the first caller. 844-899-8278. Okay.
That says fucks don't grow on trees.
Fucks don't go on trees. Oh man, that would be a really good t-shirt, wouldn't it? Okay. Well, should we go on to the third subtlety?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. This is subtlety number 3.
Subtlety number 3. We all have a limited number of fucks to give. Pay attention to where and who you give them to. When we're young, we have tons of energy. Everything is new and exciting, and everything seems to matter so much. Therefore, we give tons of fucks. We give a fuck about everything and everyone, about what people are saying about us, about whether that cute boy or girl called us back or not, about whether our socks match or not, or what color our birthday balloon is. As we get older, we gain experience and begin to notice that most of these things have little lasting impact on our lives. Those people's opinions we cared about so much before have long been removed from our lives. We've found the love we need, and so those embarrassing romantic rejections cease to mean much anymore. We realize how little people pay attention to these superficial details about us, and we focus on doing things more for ourselves rather than for others. Essentially, we become more selective about the fucks we're willing to give. This is something called maturity. It's nice. You should try it sometime. Maturity is what happens when one learns to only give a fuck about what's truly fuckworthy. As Bunk Moreland said in The Wire, which, fuck you, I still downloaded it, to his partner, Detective McNulty, that's what you get for giving a fuck when it wasn't your turn to give a fuck. Then, as we grow older and enter middle age, something else begins to change. Our energy levels drop. Our identities solidify. We know who we are, and we no longer have a desire to change what now seems inevitable in our lives. And in a strange way, this is liberating. We no longer need to give a fuck about everything. Life is just what it is. We accept it, warts and all. We realize that we're never going to cure cancer, or go to the moon, or feel Jennifer Aniston's tits. And that's okay. Life fucking goes on. We now reserve our ever-dwindling fucks only for the most truly fuckworthy parts of our lives. Our families, our best friends, our golf swing. And to our astonishment, this is enough. This simplification actually makes us really fucking happy. Then somehow, one day, much later, we wake up and we're old. And along with our gum lines and our sex drive, our ability to give a fuck has receded to the point of non-existence. In the twilight of our days, we carry out a paradoxical existence where we no longer have the energy to give a fuck about the big things in life, and instead we must dedicate the few fucks we have left to the simple and mundane, yet increasingly difficult aspects of our lives. Where to eat lunch, doctor's appointments for our creaky joints, 30-cent discounts at the supermarket, and driving without drifting to sleep and killing a parking lot full of orphans. You know, practical concerns. Then one day, on our deathbed, hopefully surrounded by the people we gave the majority of our fucks to throughout our life, and those few who still give a fuck about us, with a silent gasp, we will gently let our last fuck go. Through the tears and the gently fading beeps of the heart monitor, and the ever-dimming fluorescence encapsulating us in its divine hospital halo, we drift into some unknowable and unfuckable place. To check out the pictures and quotes used for this article, go to markmanson.net/not-giving-a-fuck.
Cool. He said something in there that I found very true for me, and I guess everybody finds it true, but I really didn't think of it in terms of getting to know myself or being comfortable with myself. But it's absolutely true. The older I get, the less I give a fuck about particularly what other people think. And it truly is liberating, you know. And also it's like, you know, I've reached this point in my life where, you know, I've pretty much achieved all the success I'm probably going to achieve, and I'm really okay with it and am satisfied and happy with where I am in my life. So that's kind of nice to not have that restlessness that I had when I was in my 30s and even in my early 40s when I was trying to get ahead and move up the ladder and all that kind of stuff. Although there's nothing wrong with that. There was a reason to do that, but it's kind of nice just to have that, I don't know, that comfort with myself of not really giving too much of a fuck.
Yeah. I think it's also just kind of talks about I've said it the whole thing, you know, the prioritizing
Right.
of fucks. And so, you know, if your metric is, you know, a certain car or certain numbers of cars or, you know, a certain house in a certain area, those kinds of things, then it's you're always going to be searching for that and giving out valuable fucks, I
Right.
guess. And so, reprioritizing, and and learning to, direct your fucks in a certain direction, is better, because in the end, we only have so much to pay attention to, and we don't want to waste it.
Right.
So one of the things that he talked about in the book that I liked is, that reminds me of AA, is he has a thing called the do something principle, and it's just basically do something, like anything. So and we call that action, and we share with newcomers that if you feel like you're on the edge and wanting to drink, do something, go to a meeting, call your sponsor, be of service to somebody, that kind of thing. And it's basically the same thing for him. He talks about doing an action, because if the metric that you're gauging success on is that you just did something, then you're already ahead, because you can't fail. So I mean, even if you do fail at whatever the action is you took, the metric was doing something, and so it pushes you forward. So kind of like when I make the bed in the morning, I've already done one thing for the day, and I successfully made the bed, and so the rest of it is easy going for me. If that's my only goal was to get something done today, which is generally how I talk in the morning, is I need to get something done, and well, there you go, I got something done, and so then I can move on with doing more things that are more important and more fulfilling. And he talks about that action isn't just the effect of motivation, it's also the cause of it. And so again, that reminds me of the program, because it's that we do an action, and then we generally either we feel different than
Right.
how we did before we did the action. So he breaks it down into kind of generally, when we think about action or doing something, we think there's like an emotional inspiration, and then motivation, and then the desirable action. Like, I'm going to write a book, and, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually action, inspiration, and motivation. And that, when we go and we do something, when we're, triggered or need a drink or whatever, we go and do something, and then, that makes us feel differently, usually better, but yeah, we're in a different frame of mind when we either help somebody or go to a meeting or talk to our sponsor or a friend or whatever. And that gives us the motivation to continue on our journey and recovery. So so I thought it was really kind of a fun way to look at
I like
self-help
that.
and motivation and things like that. He's pretty funny. Some of his stuff is like, woo.
Yeah.
But I still, I appreciate that. And I see, what he's trying to do. And his audience is mostly, millennials. And I think he broke it down that it's like 60% women, 40% men, but that when he goes and gives talks at different places, it's always the men who come up to him afterwards and talk about his book, helping them or changing their lives and stuff like that. So anyway, it's interesting.
Jackie writes, move a muscle, change a thought, similar to what we do in the program, I guess, is you take some action, and it does bring about a change, so yeah. And as you said, also working with others, helping others, and all of that. So
yeah,
I don't know what the fuck else to say. Again, if you'd like to call us, please do. It's 844-899-8278. I've just about got that phone number memorized now. It's unbelievable.
Nice. I'm nowhere near.
No. There was a time, before cell phones and so forth, where I had many, many phone numbers memorized in my brain, and that's not even necessary anymore.
You gave a fuck about people's phone
I used to
numbers
give a fuck about that, but I don't give a fuck about it anymore.
We don't. Yeah, I don't even know my partner's cell phone
I don't
number.
either. I don't either.
And we've been together for 9 years. And I realized that because he went out of town once. I mean, we're usually around each other 24/7. He went out of town once, and it just happened to be that time that I locked my keys in the car at the Y. my keys and my phone and everything in the car. And
Yeah.
and I didn't even know my mom's phone number. I had nobody's phone number, and I didn't have a phone, so I had to go back in the Y and convince them that it would be okay to break
Uh-huh.
confidentiality and call my mom. So, I was 40 something and had to ask the people at the desk at the Y to call my mommy to come and pick me up. It was awesome. Got to relive that moment from being a kid. So
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I actually remember one time I got my car broke down or something. I didn't have my cell phone and I needed to call someone. And of course there aren't any pay phones and I didn't know anybody's phone number. It was quite a mess. Anyway, I somehow got out of that jam. But anyway, I kind of
good stuff.
digress.
So, yeah. Well, with the giving a fuck about
Giving a
stuff,
fuck about stuff like that.
yeah, I don't necessarily think we need to, start giving a fuck about memorizing phone numbers.
Right.
I think that's kind of one of the arguments about education right now. Is that we're still preparing kids to for a 1950s kind of life where they're memorizing stuff, and people don't need to memorize things anymore. We can find more information than we need very easily. We need to learn how to think about what we find and how to discern truth, and how to come up with logical answers and
Right.
things like that, and that doesn't usually require memorization. So we need to give a fuck more about learning to learn than memorization. And and so that's something that I think we're figuring out during this pandemic as well.
Yeah.
Is what education is and why are we doing it the way that we're doing it. And here it's just really, really strange, because even when some of the schools are doing in-person every other day stuff, but they carry the assigned laptops with them when they go to the class. And so it doesn't really matter if they're there or not, because they have their laptops with them and they're getting the same lesson in person as the kids who are at home looking at it through
Isn't that funny?
through the screen. And so, and people will say, well, there's the socialization. It's like, but they can't socialize because we're in a pandemic. So they're not supposed to be touching each other or going too close. So
isn't that funny? It's the same thing. Same thing at
crazy.
work. It's like, the managers and stuff were kind of concerned at first that, oh my, how are you going to work together and collaborate and everything? Well, when we were in the office, the way that we collaborated was emailing each other. Even if the person was like right next in the next cubicle to me, we would always email back and forth. Same thing now, when we're working from home. So, in fact, I was actually doing. I talk about work a lot, but I was doing my performance review, and I made a comment about something reflecting back on the year, and I said, something that really surprised me about working remotely is I actually feel like I'm closer to my team than I was before working remotely, and I think part of that is because we're all. It's not that we're just working remotely now. It's just that we're all in our homes most of the time, that we're not seeing our family and we're not doing things that we would normally do. And I think in a way that we've kind of drawn closer. My friends, the people I work with, we're kind of closer, and we talk about not just work anymore, but we just talk about us as individuals. And it's actually kind of helped us a lot as a team. But anyway, that's kind of work stuff. But I find that kind of interesting about how the pandemic and being remote has kind of changed the way for the better that I relate with my coworkers.
Yeah, you've reprioritized your fucks.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Well, yeah, I did actually. I give a fuck about them, more than I do about the work, and that's what I think has helped more than anything else. And the work falls in line when you care about the people.
Right. Yeah. You had mentioned something about, that you're supposed to be going on vacation and you're going to go in for a little bit because things are kind of crazy. And I think that's a reprioritization, because you care about the people on your team and setting things up so that they're, while you're gone, it doesn't create more problems for the rest of them. Whereas before, I think most people, I'm not saying it's your case, but I think a lot of us, when we're in corporate jobs and stuff, we're just just like, we're out of here. You cannot
Right,
call
right.
me. I do not even text me, nothing, stay away from me. I don't care if the building's on fire.
Right.
But yeah, this experience is causing you to, consider them and how that would work. And so, kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was funny. Anytime that I go on vacation, the work doubles for one of my coworkers. Anytime she goes on vacation, my work doubles. So it's like, So anyway, Bree has a comment or a question, and I think I would like to do this. He says, "Are you guys going to do a live podcast from the International Convention in DC next fall?" I would love to do that.
Yeah, I mean, provided that
Provided it happens.
all of that
next fall.
happens. Yeah, so
It will be so interesting to see what life is like a year from now, won't it?
Right. Yeah, it definitely will. So we
I
still
hope
have
it
a couple of
happens.
months to make sure that, that we'll still have a United States.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to have it in Canada again. And those of us who fled there will probably be able to make it. But yeah, that would be fun. And
Yeah, it
we've
would
talked
be.
about, if we are able to go out and about and move about freely this summer, of doing like little mini road trips or something like that, and going to different meetings and doing one, while we're in that town or something, so yeah, we would definitely love to do a show at the convention and just go and check some things out.
Yeah, I have a podcasting friend from Dallas, John M., who does I think Sobercast, and he does like live podcast episodes in the Dallas area every so often, and I'm on his email list. He'll send out an email to let people know where he is, and it sounds like a lot of fun. I'd love to do that sometime. I think that'd be really cool. Travel around.
Yeah.
And I've got such nice equipment now too. Oh boy, it'd just be so much fun to play with that. I'm kind of thinking about now, like setting up a PA system to to put our voices out there for the people in the convention to hear us. It would be fun. I tell you what, man, it'll be so nice. It'll be so nice when this pandemic thing is behind us and we can all get together in big groups again and do things. I'm certainly looking forward to it. This is kind of, I tell my wife all the time, it's like, boy, I'm getting so tired of just seeing my house all the time. Like working here and living here and everything here. So anyway.
Yeah.
But I can't complain. I can complain, but I shouldn't really. I shouldn't.
Oh, you just shitted on yourself.
I did, didn't I?
I guess we should have done that topic.
Should have done the masturbation one.
Look at you shitting on yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, things have been crazy.
We've got stuff going on here in our little secular community world, and I tell you, I have to apologize. I think that some people have picked up the slack, but I have really dropped the ball on working for secular AA people and doing anything. But we're getting ready to do a mini conference online December the 5th, and Joe C and Greg O have been working diligently on putting this together. And I think that Jerry has been responding to the emails, hopefully, that have been coming into the secular AA email box, because I for whatever reason, I couldn't do it anymore. And so anyway, I think that we're putting together a pretty good conference agenda. And I've seen some of the panels that Joe was talking about. He emailed me the other day about some different panels that we've got coming up. And we're actually going to have the main speaker that was scheduled for the original DC conference, Dr. George Koob. He will be a speaker at this online thing. So this weekend, I am going to put out a blog post on the Secular AA website, and then make sure that I post it on all the social media places so that people will know what's going on. And I know that some people have emailed asking for, there's a Joe C. What's he say? Geez, John, you've been doing more than your fair share for 5 years. Relax. Yeah, you're doing a great job, Joe. Joe's got so much energy. I don't know how he's like everywhere. He's at every meeting all over the world.
He knows how to direct his fucks.
He does. He gives a fuck about the important things. Joe says that he heard London people are going to do something too. That's right. We got people from London coming, and they will certainly. I love it. I love it. I love people from London. They always make me feel so smart when they talk. I don't know why. I start talking like them. Yes, let's have a conversation. I'm sorry. I shouldn't make fun of people from. Anyway, so what else is going on? So we got that coming up. Oh yeah, and then we've got the what's it called? Emotional sobriety has been pushed back towards the end of November because it was conflicting with, wouldn't you know it, Higher Palooza. So we got another Higher Palooza coming up, and then we've got I'm losing my mind. Whatever. Oh, emotional sobriety. So anyway, so I'm actually going to be in a meeting about emotional sobriety because I work behind the scenes on that one. Actually, what I do now isn't that important. The first time I did it, it was all new and everything, and we had to figure out how to put people on and stuff like that. But I think we've got it pretty much figured out now. So anyway, it'll be fun to see. It's just fun to kind of get together with everybody, and it's interesting to see what people have to say about emotional sobriety.
Yeah,
And
and I think it's kind of along this book as well. It's he would consider it just growth, emotional maturity and introspection and growth, and I think that's where a lot of people in AA, both secular and otherwise, are moving to, is the emotional sobriety or emotional wellness or something along those things. There's only so much you can do on the treadmill of staying sober, go to meetings, blah blah blah. Now, after a while, you have to actually deal with some of the other things that come along, the other opportunities that come into your life once you are sober. Relationships with people, being better employees. How do you get along with your coworkers? All of those things I think are included in emotional sobriety because it's basically, your self-regulation, understanding that you have feelings and emotions and learning how to direct them appropriately. And that's taking a while.
yeah.
So.
And Mikey from Oh My God, he's helping out too with the conference. He's doing some of the more technical stuff, helping us get our Zoom platform set up. It's gonna be pretty exciting. This little conference that they're doing for secular AA. Also, a little bit of news. Some people were asking about when are you going to change the website address from aasecular.org to seculara.org. It has been done. You can now type in seculara.org and you will arrive to the website. And I need to do some behind the scene changes so that the seculara.org is the main one. But anyway, right now it's I got the old one forwarded to that one. So that's been done. So that's good. And we're still needing someone though to help us out with the actual website content and everything to kind of work on the website. It's like you don't have to be like a computer scientist or anything to do it, but it's just like, if you kind of get familiar with WordPress and just have a little bit of basic skills like that, it's doable. It's not that hard. And it could be fun for someone who has the time and the inclination to do it. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in being a webmaster to contact seculara@gmail.com. All right. What else do we have going on, Angela, that we should talk about?
I think those are the main things. There's still meetings going on, and we appreciate the people that are still posting the meetings and keeping those up to date, the Zoom meetings.
Yes, Chris M. He does an amazing job, and of course Mikey, who put together the initial spreadsheet list and keeps it up. But we've got two incredible lists going on. Chris has a list that let me see if I can find it, and I'll post a link there. But Chris has a list that he made a little website of all the online meetings that he knows about. And he keeps it up to date like crazy. And I know that somebody will listen to this podcast after tonight and who's looking for a secular meeting, and they would like to figure out where to find them. So having that link here will help out a lot. And then of course there's that Google sheet that has a lot of good probably one of the more thorough lists as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get that up here. Anyway, I'll find it and put it up there. So yeah, there's some stuff like that. And then I just did a podcast that I posted on Wednesday where I interviewed Chia from the Secular Al-Anon group in Boise. And I posted Boise. I'm sorry, Boise. I learned that from you, Boise. I've been trying to say it right. Anyway, so Chia from Boise, she and I had a talk, and I posted that, and already had some people find the meeting from that. So
yeah, she was surprised that you were, you were that famous.
I know. It's amazing. Well, there's actually a lot of people out there searching for secular Al-Anon meetings, and there just aren't that many of them around. Yeah. I mean, I get emails occasionally from people, and the only groups I know of that are actual groups are the one in Boise, one in Lawrence, Kansas, and there's actually one in Canada, I think in Western Canada. But now they're all mostly online. And what was really interesting, Chia told me that their group was like almost dying when they were just meeting in person. But since they've gone online, they have really exploded. They've got all kinds of people coming to their meetings now. So.
Yeah. So I think that'll be really good. For that group, Secular Al-Anons. My understanding is that they've really struggled because, I know about the group in Boise and what they went through with just trying to start an in-person meeting, and yeah, they got a lot of pushback, telling them what words they could use in describing their group, and yeah, it was not pleasant, and so I'm guessing that's why there aren't that many secular Al-Anon groups, because of the way that organization runs, which is slightly different than AA. There are some similarities since it is a sister organization, but yeah, they are even less keen for change than AA, and so I think it's great that we're able to do these on Zoom now, so that those people can get connected, and hopefully those groups will start to develop more. Just like ours have.
Yeah. Anyway, it was fun. Oh yeah, Joe has it. It's aadistrict1.com.
Yeah.
I'm typing aadistrict1.com. There you go. I think that's
this is what
right.
John sounds like when he's typing.
I'll try that again sometime.
Yeah,
well, so
behind the scenes showing John typing, and it goes silent.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another live stream. I always enjoy doing these. Sometimes I'm a little bit beat at the end of the day on a Friday, but these live streams always kind of pick me up. That and the cup of coffee that I always have going on here. I'm doing something a little interesting for your entertainment pleasure. For those of you who are patrons or members of our YouTube channel, I'm actually doing little screenshots of behind the scenes shots of what we do, the live stream. So it's quite entertaining, and so it's worth becoming a patron so you can view that stuff. I'm actually doing stuff on Patreon now, which is I kind of figured out that what I need to do with Patreon is do things that are actually doable. So what I'm doing now is for people who are patrons, they will get to listen to podcast episodes before they're published. They'll be able to get to see all the videos. So in other words, every time I do a podcast, I'm going to do a video of it as well, so they get to see the video. It's like, oh boy, I'm sure people are excited about that.
Wow,
it's just these little perks, that make it worthwhile. But anyway, it's fun. I love it. I love podcasting, and it makes AA fun for me too. So it's great to be able to give
a fuck about.
Yeah, it's something I give a fuck about, and I hope that other people do too. So with that, I'm going to play some music to get us out of here.
Wow.
Yes, I have really improved the music, especially from especially from those early days of podcasting. So that's it. That's another episode of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll be back again next week for another live stream. And also probably next Wednesday, we're going to be posting a really interesting episode. I believe the one I'm posting is about measuring recovery capital. You're going to love it. Anyway, y'all take care. Be well. We'll be talking again real soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That turned out really well.
All right.
Thank you.
We're good.
That turned out really, really well, Angela.
Yeah, did